school for anybody that wants to listen. So Anand, legend. He's got startups. He's got VC. He's got VRAR. He's the perfect person to come to talk to us. And I think we're all equally as excited to listen to him. So I asked you all to submit questions, and this is basically what it looked like from my perspective. I got like 45 questions in a 24-hour period. And so I've done my best to try to synthesize those things. But really what I want to do here is try to make this more about the members and have you all ask Anand questions directly and make this very conversational. Okay, so two things before we start. One is like, I have to give my understanding of my pre-meta versus post-meta perspective. So I've been in VR forever. I didn't know much about Meta. I joined Meta, and then I saw behind the scenes how it works. Like, it is a massive operation. They're literally the ones, not Apple. They're the ones that are building AR VR and creating all of this for us. And with that, you know, there's downsides, there's upsides. I get that. So I looked through a lot of those questions, and I want to first let Anand basically give a disclaimer. You know, we want to be very respectful of like, he knows stuff. He's seeing stuff that's years ahead of what we are aware of. And it's important that he doesn't disclose those things. And so, Anand, can you maybe just like give a quick understanding to everybody about what you can talk about, what you can talk about, so we're respectful of your position there?
Well, we can talk about anything that's public, basically.
Cool.
So anything up on the Quest 3 as a device and whatever else you see publicly on the store.
Okay, perfect. All right, and then the other rule here, self promo is a no. Had to make it rhyme. So we're trying to make this so that everybody benefits here. So when you ask your question, let's try to make it as generic as possible or generalized as possible. I'm gonna start us off with the first question based on what Anand just said. So there was a lot of updates in the last month and a half around this press release that Meta gave out, introducing our open mixed reality ecosystem. And what that, you know, kind of entails is like a big push towards social. It looks like there's some emphasis around the Horizon side of things. It also looks like Quest apps have combined with App Lab so that they're now more discoverable. There was an article from Road to VR talking about there's now over 2,500 Quest apps you can discover. Like, these are big updates. So I'm going to take this first question, and then we're literally going to let everybody on this call, there's 45 people now, and all of your members. So come ask your questions after this. But Anand, can you maybe like start us off here, give us a quick update about what Meta just announced and how that impacts founders that are trying to get onto the store, whether they're enterprise or consumer?
Yeah, happy to. Hey, Don, just so that I can calibrate, the folks in the room are all founders, right? There's no press and stuff.
No, everybody here is a founder who's a part of our collective. We've been aware of, you know, you for a while, and they've all submitted questions. They're all related to startups, VC, and virtual reality, augmented reality.
And what's said in this room stays in this room in general?
Yes, correct. Yep. It's private only to members. Everyone here is paying a monthly subscription to be a part of this.
Gotcha.
And it's very important that we keep this private if we want these to keep happening, everybody. So please.
Okay, cool. Thanks for the context. Hi, everybody. Great to meet all of you. I'm excited to have a conversation. I'm going to start off by saying, like, I don't know all the answers, but I think we've seen enough patterns collectively over the last 10 years of XR and 20, 30 years of the internet that a lot of those patterns hold. So we can sort of do a little bit of tea leaf reading and project where we're going. Thank you, Jimmy, for calling out that the mic is low. So I am going to increase my volume. Is this better, Jimmy? I'll just wait for you to say yes or no in the chat, and I'll keep going. Yep, very slightly. Huh, that's interesting. Don, is the audio an issue on my side?
Nope, you sound great. Jimmy, turn your computer up.
Okay, great. So the way to think about these announcements are in light of the longer term arc that Mark talks about, and he's been fairly consistent over time. When we did the announcement about, at this point, 2 years ago, where I think we rebranded Facebook to Meta, and we talked about the metaverse. Um, I think Mark did too good of a job describing the future, and expectations were like, oh my God, all of this stuff is just going to be open. It's going to be interoperable. It's going to work. Um, and I think like what the journey has been is slowly building each of these building blocks to get to that outcome. So that over 10 years time, like the metaverse becomes a thing, that it is open, it's interoperable. And Mark talks a lot about closed ecosystems and open ecosystems. Like in the PC era, the open ecosystem won. You can bootload, like you can load anything into any computer that you have. In the mobile era, the closed ecosystem won with like a fully integrated experience that Apple brought to the table. For AR, VR, the story is not yet written. And the default of it being open or closed is like not yet known. And so if we're trying to build eventually a version of the experience that everybody can access, and if we want it to be open, we've got to start opening up things. And so what does opening up mean tangibly is the question we've been all working on over the last 2 years. And the announcement has three parts: opening up the hardware ecosystem so that other people can manufacture headsets. The goal of that really is to have the best horse for the best race. And what is required of a work headset is different from a fitness headset, from a gaming headset. And it's valuable to provide to people who can make hardware the opportunity to take our operating system and everything that's spatial on top of it and build their own hardware to focus on specific segments of the market. So that's like at the lowest level of the stack, the first change. The second change is announcing that the store is opening. The first 10 years of Oculus and then Quest, the goal was to make sure that when someone pays $300, $400, $500, whatever they get meets their expectation, so that their impressions about the technology and the device class is set appropriately, both in terms of the expectation on the depth of the experience and the quality of the experience, but also the ability and the willingness to pay. Because uh, we've been thinking about this from day one, where it's really a three-sided ecosystem. There is the devices and the software, which historically just Meta has made, but with the open announcement, like others can make it too on top of our software we give them. There is Meta itself, and then finally there's like developers and founders, and the money has to flow between the three. So we have to like make sure the customer is trained to understand that there are paid experiences and is paying for it, and that money fuels the ecosystem. Because we wanted to make sure that the first 10, 20, 30, 40, however millions of people are there on the platform, get the best set of experiences, are trained to spend money on it, and that money flows into the ecosystem to founders and developers. I think we've largely gotten to that point where that expectation has been set. It's gotten to a point now where also that there are more founders building experiences, where for the longest term we had to like make sure that we were caring, feeding, tending, nurturing the ecosystem. And I think we're switching our role now from being sort of like that to the almost like somebody who's nurturing a garden and let 1,000 flowers bloom and make sure that the weeds are not there and make sure that there's like enough fertilizers. And as we've gone through this journey, that has meant that we can like open the store up to a lot of developers. And so that over time, this difference between what used to be App Lab, a testing ground, and the store, which is sort of this main thing, just vanishes, and there's just like one place to publish to. And what you're seeing slowly are steps in the direction where the App Lab um, experiences are showing up as pills inside the store. I think there's like 200 or 300 App Lab titles that are now showing up inside the store. Over time, we're going to like make sure that App Lab as a thing becomes the store, and the store becomes the App Lab, and there's no difference. So you can build and publish it to the store without, as long as you pass sort of basic um, virtual reality checks around safety. So that broadly is the context and the background of these announcements done, which specifically look like the hardware, the operating system, and the store opening up.
And so when I was there, we kind of went through that transition where it was very much closed. You know, people within Meta were picking kind of who are the apps that would get through and keeping a quality bar very high. It sounds like maybe in one sentence, what's really changed is that this is moving more towards just an app store where anyone can submit. And as long as you hit the thresholds of quality, you don't need all the background approval. It's more of just a free ecosystem. Is that correct? You're muted.
Yeah, you're right, Don. The curation element has shifted from, hey, let's curate what's in the store and what shows up in the store or gets into the store. That has changed to like, hey, let's make sure that everybody can ship into the store. And the curation is now about highlighting the more successful titles that organically emerge from these thousand flowers blooming.
Okay, awesome. All right, that's great context because I think that's, listening to the developer ecosystem the last few years, that's been one of the big pushbacks is like, how do we get on the store? Who do we talk to? So those are some really, really massive changes for the industry. I think that's very important to note. All right, so I see we have two hands raised here, Solaris and Krazy. We'll go left to right. Solaris, do you want to kick us off? And then Krazy, you can go next there.
Hey, Don, do you want to remove the pinning in the spotlight and go to panel mode so I can actually see the speakers?
Yep. Remove spotlight. All right, should be good.
Yep. Okay.
Cool.
Awesome. Hey, Anand, I'm Solaris from Never Met. We've exchanged emails, but my question is around discovery for App Lab apps compared to full store apps. Right now, my understanding is that search is based on the title of your application. So if your app is named like dating app or something, and somebody searches dating app, they'll see it. Obviously, keywords are an important part of discovery or categorization. Is there intention for like keyword surfacing and being able to label your application to come to App Lab through store search as well?
Yeah. The short answer is yes. The long answer is, as with all things roadmap, it's step by step, right? Like step one is make sure that whatever is in App Lab is getting surfaced in the store in the discovery surfaces. And step two will be to make sure that search works. And step three will be like keywords, so on and so forth. So yeah.
And then the follow up there is if the store discovers that people searching for a specific term click through and convert on an App Lab app at a higher rate than some other store app that would appear in the same search, would you expect that that would affect like the ordering of things in the same way, and that App Lab would be mixed in with store apps, or that store apps would tend to always kind of appear at the top, like followed by App Lab applications?
Great design questions on how the algorithm will actually work. I don't think we're there yet. I
Okay.
think like the product vision is there are no more two surfaces and two buckets. There's just going to be one corpus. And so the behaviors you would expect for search, which is high intent activity for the user, the behavior you would expect for discovery, which is like low intent discovery for people who are just looking to find experiences, all of that will unify and behave the same way over time. So what I would suggest is like, I remember the mobile app store days where like growth hacking the algorithm was like a thing, and that's how you would get growth. I don't think we're there yet because the algorithm basically hasn't yet become a thing. So I would say for the next like 6 to 9 months, I would just focus on building the experience, optimizing the PDP, assuming that the algorithm is like quote unquote like dumb and it doesn't understand these differences. And you'll start seeing the discovery surfaces like merge, and then the search surfaces would also like behave the same way.
Gotcha. And then final follow up. I imagine Meta's working on bringing paid promotion to search inside of the Quest store rather than right now you guys individually promote content. I was wondering if you would plan to enable App Lab developers to do paid search promotion through the store in the long term, or if that'll be a limitation for full Quest store releases.
I think in the fullness of time, you should expect it to behave and operate like any of the app stores, right? And the gold standard, like in my head, is like actually not the iOS App Store or the Google Play Store. This may sound weird, but I think the gold standard is actually Amazon. Like, if you wanted baby wipes, you will see Amazon Basics. You will see the biggest PNG products. You can see and drill down by like, okay, organic, sustainable, and 20 different criteria. You'll get to the thing that you actually want, which might be just fulfilled by Amazon, or might not even be fulfilled by Amazon, shipped direct from third party. At the end of the day, like converting a sale for the consumer, Amazon takes like 6 or 7 different paths to get there, and all the choices are available to the consumer. You can argue that it's a very cluttered interface, it's not as beautiful, but at the end of the day, it gets the job done. And like that, I think, is a gold standard we should try and, or we're going to try and push towards, because we also want to make sure that like it's not a 99-cent like long tail wasteland where like the power law is so strong that 10 apps make most of the money, and then like the rest, tens of thousands, like don't actually make it, which is the challenge with iPhone and Google Play stores right now. Super, super long tail. So the trick is to make sure that like inventory, discovery, and conversion, all the tools are available for the consumer to get to the intent that they want, while making sure that the distribution is healthy so that the fat middle of the ecosystem is bigger than like the like the top 0.1%, right? So the area under the curve needs to be much bigger for the ecosystem actually to be healthier.
Gotcha. Thank you, Anand.
Yep. And I think that's kind of what I was saying early on too, is like Meta's a big company. There's a lot going on, startup speed is 10x faster than a big tech company. And so they're really doing their best, and all those things are going to come. It's just a matter of, can you hang on in between now and when that's fully functional? All right. So Solaris, that was on the consumer side. Krazy, I assume yours is more enterprise. You want to unmute yourself and ask the
Yeah,
question, please?
you read my
Good to see you, Krasi.
good to see you, Anand. Yeah, Don read my mind. But my question is somewhat related because over the past years, Quest has grown so much. It started a lot with games, but we see more and more use cases in business and education and whatnot. So I wonder, now that you spoke about the store opening up to a bunch of different apps, what about people that may want to play games but may not be their focus? What's the store experience do you think gonna be for them in the future? And what's the best way to guide everybody to in order to grow all those different use cases that AR VR are about?
I got anchored in the earlier commentary on like Amazon being the best store. It's funny, if you can't recognize, I have headset face. I was in headset for a couple of hours this morning on my Quest 3 trying to like play test a few things in my hotel room.
Same here.
So like I was looking at media, and like Trip, the meditation app, is under media, and I'm like, why? Makes no freaking sense. So I think like it is inevitable that like the store will have to have surfaces by user archetype. Like a gamer should be able to see their gamer section with the hardcore games or the casual games that they want. A workout person, there should be a fitness store, there should be a fitness merch in it, right? Fitness accessories in it. Like why do you need to just buy software from the store? I mean, like if you're going there and you like Supernatural, FitXR, or Lesmos or whatever, you should be able to buy a wicking material there, right there, right? Like, so the way we think of this is like the mall. There's like anchor tenants. Right now, like it's like everybody being like everywhere. It's like really unclear. And so if you're a gamer, good for you. If you're not a gamer, you're going to be lost, even for the other use cases like watching media and working out and learning and education. So it is inevitable that the store will have to get like clearly classified by use case. and search will have to get better by intent. Which means that like the productivity and there should be a B2B section, and the B2B section
Right.
should have like tools, and it should have apps, and it should have middleware and whatever, right? Historically, even in B2B, we said, no, we're not doing middleware. We're only focused on applications because we're training a designer to use Shapes XR to design something, as opposed to like a middleware product that the headset is really just a companion into which you can test as a test target. I think all those things will just like call bankruptcy on all those things over time. That's what the open store actually means. The challenge is going to become like, always when you do these things, it's going to be like consumer discovery. Because like I've been on the other side where like the complaint that I've had with a lot of the app stores in the past is like, oh my God, it's so hard to be successful in there. Like Quest, the first 8 years, 10 years has been like, oh my God, it's so hard to get in there. So like there's no free lunch. The pressure points will keep shifting over time as like the ecosystem evolves. And I think we're gonna see that evolve.
That makes sense. Thank you, Anand.
Awesome. All right. Armen, I think you probably are asking about Horizon, if I recall your question from the sheet, but unmute yourself if you can.
Yes. Hi, Anand. Thanks, Darren, for this opportunity. I represent GMS. So I have had some interactions with Horizon World's creator partnership person, and it seems that Meta is right now focused on gaming content only. So as an enterprise, as a small business, it's really difficult to create quick proof of concept worlds, say with Unity, and do client demos and push, solutions for, clients and bring large enterprises to Horizon Worlds. How can we partner with Meta and, focus on this and get traction? That's my question.
Armin, you're not gonna like my answer. My answer is like, don't. And let me like explain what I mean by that. Horizon is on a journey that Quest was over the last 8 to 10 years, which is to find the super heat for specific use cases and create the engagement loop and the retention loops for behaviors to exist where you would want to go into an immersive world to do something. For Horizon, that something is really consumer experiences where people are choosing to spend their leisure time in more immersive expressions of those worlds, which they're used to on 2D surfaces. Like if you played Roblox, you've been in Brookhaven, or like, I forget the other sim in Roblox. But like if you go into Horizon today, you actually see comedy. You see live action role play. There's like a meta court where fake cases are tried by the jury. I was just in VR Classroom earlier this morning, testing out a bunch of stuff. The entire idea behind the product surfaces when they're new is to find that like super user, right? And that super user right now is a consumer, and within consumer, it's like people who are used to the behavior of being in immersive worlds in 2D, and like they're like, oh, cool, of course, immersive worlds in 3D makes sense. So the focus is less about B2B and SMB experiences, because the density of people demonstrating that behavior, it's like super early.
No, but what I mean is, let's say for marketing, let's say you have a large enterprise, or let's say NBA, right? NBA, you want to bring NBA, and they'll have a lot of fans. As to Horizon Worlds, there's a lot of consumers, millions, and they'll be interested to, for their specific teams to join and participate. It's not really enterprise, right? It's their NBA is an enterprise, right? But they have lots of fans, as an example.
Yeah, so we should break down the word NBA into like specifics of the NBA. What about the NBA will create user habit. It's watching games. It is engaging with other fans around a shared passion of the game, whether you're a Warriors fan or you're a Lakers fan, and then there's mini activities around it. Those kind of things like to me
Marketing,
so
e-commerce.
marketing is not a user intent that users go to the headset to shoot, right? Like they're not like, I want to see an NBA like ad, or like I want to buy an NBA merch. Like they want to go engage with the game and other fans as a part of that user journey. If you're marketing them stuff which feels organic, like Gym Class does a really good job of it. You're getting a Warriors jersey as a merch inside the Gym Class app. Now it's a part of your identity in the game. So it's like really not a marketing thing. So the user intent around the specific example you described is watching games, hanging out with others, and building communities. So those are consumer experiences. And I think you will find like traction and product market fit around those classes of experiences in Horizon. There's like no doubt about it. Because we're already seeing that behavior emerge on the platform.
Awesome. All right, Armin, I hope that answers it. I want to make sure everybody gets equal time, so I got to keep it moving. But thank you very much for the question there. Appreciate that. All right, so I'm going off of the type form. Everyone submitted questions now, and then cross-referencing with who raised their hand. So Patrick, you asked, what do you expect the install base to be in the next 5 years? And Anand can't answer that. But basically, it sounds like this question is around like, what are some of the verticals and where is the industry going? Do you want to expand on that in like 10 seconds and then leave it open for Anand?
Oh yeah, I was gonna ask a different one, but that's fine. Yeah, I am curious about, like, I know you guys are working a lot on growing other verticals besides gaming, and if just sort of like what the sense is on the trends, and if gaming's still gonna and entertainment's kind of still gonna stay at the front, especially as we move into AR.
Great question, Patrick.
And I'm just thinking like the temperature. Obviously, I know you don't have like a crystal ball, right? Oh, I think you vanished.
No, I'm reflecting on the question. We should follow where the user behavior is emerging. I was thinking like building products as like water cutting through stone. You don't want to like try and create a new path. You're just seeing this trickle going, and you just like dig deeper and make it like a big flow of the experience, right? And I think like consumer behavior, the facts that we know to be true are following. The audience is tending younger. This is why the Gorilla Tags, gym classes, big baller basketball, like there's this whole move towards a younger audience. I don't know if you guys saw the research, like 1 in 4 or 1 in 3 kids in the United States over the age of 13 own a VR headset. They're in the headset twice a week, thrice a week. So this generation is like aging up, right? Like for those of us who grew up with Windows 95, 97, or grew up with like flip phones and do, like this generation is going to age up. And so the question really becomes like, what are the experiences that are relevant to teen and young adults all the way through to early professionals is where I think you will start seeing them organically putting on like the headset. Like I would take my headset around with me even if I was not working at Meta for 2 specific things, having grown up with it, like meditating and working out. But that's like a very specific target demo. What you I think going to see is like gaming will continue to grow, but I think the kinds of games will change. I think you're going to start seeing more casual gamers. That's what we're seeing with like Gym Class and some of these others, not hardcore shooter looter types. We're going to have, so that's one end of the spectrum. The other end of the spectrum, we're going to get like passive consumption experiences with display getting better and with access to things that you can't otherwise get to, like a ringside seat at a UFC fight or a courtside seat at the Warriors game or whatever. I think that watching experience and media watching experience will also become a thing. Then I think there's this whole bucket in between of like lifestyle experiences, which the consumers are starting to vote with their time spent, like especially with mixed reality. it is no longer escaping from your reality into like this alternate gameplay world or like a movie or watching a game. It's actually bringing the headset experiences into your reality with mixed reality. So I broadly call this like lifestyle. Fitness and wellness is a kind of lifestyle, but if you actually go down the list of all the lifestyle categories within the app stores that are already there, like Apple or Google, you actually see things like interests, music, art, hobbies, fashion, beauty, DIY, arts and crafts. Like you'll see these like big class of hobbies and interests, which I think are going to become like definitely a thing with mixed reality. I'm also noticing that like some developers are doing permissionless hacking, which is awesome. They've just gone and grabbed Llama APIs and they've gone and taken the Quest SDKs and they put the two together and they're like, guess what? Hands-free and mixed reality actually is better than a mobile phone. If I'm trying to cook, like it's really hard for me to like look at the menu and then add stuff. Or like if I'm trying to like, it turns out if you look at the Instagram, like top trending things, apparently crocheting and knitting is becoming a thing with like Gen Z. Like, guess what? You need to have hands-free. So if you haven't gotten Zach from Piano Vision done, you should. Like he's doing incredibly well. Like I think there's going to be a class of these experiences where it has to be 10x better than the mobile phone. It is uniquely MR. It's about some life interest, so it integrates into your life, and it leverages some form of like AI for assistance. Those things will definitely find traction. And the question is like, what are you gonna like? Who is a target demo you're gonna point it to? It's very different if you're trying to point it at an 18-year-old versus like a 22-year-old. So on. So if it's for Don's demo, like you probably want a better Golf Plus, like where you can like train better in your like home. So recreational sports in mixed reality is like a thing. And it's a big market and it's a rich market. And like somebody was telling me that like if you golf twice a month or at least once a month and it's a large population, to get yourself a training system at home that is able to give you like swing and stuff and like project it, it adds up. It's like $1,000 investment. You can basically convert all of that into software with like 90% accuracy, and that's a market there for that specific experience. So I think that's where you'll start seeing a lot of the traction on the consumer leisure time. What I think you're going to start, I will stop. There's a whole B2B answer, but I will stop. Don, sounded like you want to chime in.
I was just gonna say, I think as it becomes wider, the easier way to get traction is the niche down, which was our thesis on the Piano Vision one. But don't let me stop you on the enterprise because we have some people on the enterprise side as well, real quick. But I just want to make sure we can get through everybody.
Enterprise, I think, has like 3 use cases which will continue to get meaningful product market fit and like money. The way to approach them are, each of them will be different. We all know the training and education use case. That is not a one size fits all. It's build a platform outside VR and give the CHRO or the chief safety officer or somebody an ability to like quickly publish a training that is specific to their company, and that is like the biggest bottleneck right now. So that I think is an area where classic B2B SaaS will totally work. The fact that Cornerstone bought Tailspin is like a very strong signal. It's only a matter of like, I mean, any startup we do is like 10 years, right? Like it's only a matter of time before like the large companies, each with their own product suite, like whether it's like Salesforce or Microsoft or like whoever, will want an XR. Just like there was a world where like they all bought a bunch of mobile apps. Remember Microsoft went on a buying spree and got a bunch of like mobile apps, and so did like Salesforce. And then Web 2.0's experience got so good that everybody started buying chat companies. Like all that's just waiting to happen. But that's like over the long 10-year time horizon. So training is one. The second area where I have strong conviction is going to be 3D design, whether it's architecture, product design for manufacturing, or digital design, because they're all like, they just don't work as well when you have to review and make decisions on a 2D surface. So I'm pretty bullish on like folks like Shapes XR and a few others in the space, because the thesis is just like 10x better than the resolve in architecture is another great one. Archeo out of Iceland is great. You should go check it out. So I think that's the second area where you find product market fit. I think the third area, which remains to be seen, is if remote training for large groups can get better. I am still a little bit sus on that, because every time you bring a large group together in person, the serendipity and like the sparks that fly is like so powerful that the value of like offsites and conferences actually being in person like continues to outweigh the costs. But I think at some point like that will also change. So large group format conference trainings, I'm not yet sure, but I can imagine that happening in 10 years. So if I were focusing on B2B, I would go vertical deep in whatever 3D exists in an industry, and I would do fear, uncertainty, doubt based training that basically allows the chief compliance officer, safety officer to be literally like, our people are trained. Somebody should build something and go sell it to Boeing and like Airbus and others. And like, this seems to be like a lot of problems there. So like, there's nothing better than XR to like go solve those problems of training for safety.
I won't get on another plane until that happens, by the way. I'm scared now. Mac, you want to ask your question? Muted alert. All right, we'll move
about
over.
now?
Oh, there you go. Yep.
Wrong input. Sorry about that. Thanks, Don. Thanks, Anand. Just real quickly, I'm trying to actually raise for my MR startup. And, you know, the biggest monkey in our back is this market timing in TAM, specifically when it focuses on MR. What would you say to external investors to help them be excited about the timing opportunity of MR-focused startups?
I think the market is still where you want missionary investors, not mercenary investors. The reality is like, I don't think all investors get it. And they are super distracted by like the next thing, which is basically Gen AI. And like, so one advice I would have is like, segment your, before you ask me a question on message, I'm actually going to tell you like the answer is like, it really depends on who you're targeting. Like there's like 15 investors max who have conviction on XR. For them, I think you sell the vision of how this will be better and they'll just get on board. For the general population of investors, whether it's like a Sequoia or somebody else who's like, who doesn't really invest in like XR, you can be cheeky and add AI, and then you'll probably be able to raise some version of the round. What I would tell them, so the hardest case is a general investor, right? Like who's trying to find like a 10x return, like now, in a 6-year window that they have their funds. I would tell them all pitches are emotional and visceral and less like data driven. Like that's just the nature of like raising. I would tell them, do you believe in a world where you think the technology will shrink down to a pair of glasses? And what would you say if Uber showed up at your doorstep when Steve Jobs announced the iPhone? That is really the opportunity like in front of a discerning investor at this moment. If they can ride out the next 10 years, they will be like an Uber born here. And mixed reality, which makes, I think Ben Thompson had a really good way of talking about this, which is like virtual reality competes for your time and it's a zero-sum game. Mixed reality actually augments the existing things you do. And the ultimate thing is going to be like the pair of glasses, but the path to get there is going to be a headset. And if you believe that journey, then mixed reality is the pathway to get there. And if you add some version of AI to it, it can be 10x better. And let me tell you why what I'm trying to solve for is 10x better. And I'm going to keep my burn low, which is like really, 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 really important. I don't think this category is at a place where you can raise 10, $15 million and like burn your way or like push, like brute force product market fit. I think this is like a patient playing game of like being very careful with the burn while showing product market, which is essentially the playbook I've seen with everybody who has raised, including Jim Class, including Gorilla Tag has never raised. Shapes has been around for 8 years. Prisms in Education has been around for like 6 years. They're slowly building low burn rate, high product differentiation, 10x better in XR experiences, and finding missionary investors. That is literally the playbook. And all of them have a non-headset companion experience as well, whether it's on the desktop or the mobile, because there the TAM is not constrained. Because then the framing really is like, I don't have a technology trying to find a problem. I'm actually solving a specific problem for a specific industry, for a specific persona. The vanilla experience is this, which is a desktop or a mobile thing. Premium experience is this, which is headset only. So sure, a designer, like a reviewer of a designer can look at the design on a Zoom call. But if you really want to make changes, you're going into the headset. So it's a little bit of like an upsell play. And the upsell is where like the XR product SKU gets positioned for premium pricing. So that's the way I would play it. So it's not really a messaging answer. It's more of like which investor are you targeting? And what's your product and company strategy? Because then the messaging will be much easier.
That's a great point.
Is this useful? Like, if this is not useful, you should tell me down.
No, I think that's the hardest part of being an AR founder. Like we have Sophie here on the call, and she's done all this with like a very minimal investment from Boost VC 8 years ago, and has just basically stretched that into a 15-person company and has figured it all out. Adam Draper always talks about being a cockroach, which is like, hey, you can't die, you just need to stay alive. And, I think the hardest part is kind of accepting like there just aren't $10 million rounds, which also means that the $500,000 rounds are a lot harder to come by. And so, I think everybody on this call, like everybody a part of this, myself included, yourself, like we are all in this for the long haul, and that is not easy. And so your answer is the reality. It's like there's just not a lot getting done, and unfortunately you just got to, keep clawing and just hope you can get as much money as possible, but you really shouldn't expect to fundraise a lot. It's just not the reality of the industry right now.
I didn't realize Sophie was on the call. I don't see her on my panel.
Hello, I'm here.
Oh, hi, there you are.
Oh, yeah.
I think like virtual speech is a good example of the same pattern, right? Like to your point, like as you were talking, I pulled up the virtual speech website, like got a bunch of, like this is a product that can be bought by a company, and there's like a default experience, but like the 10x experience is really an XR, and the XR gets pulled in. I don't know. So we should talk about how she sells this. And it's less about like, we have a VR language training app. I think so. I think it's more about like how it can be made better, and XR is a tool to get there. But I don't want to pitch on behalf of Sophie. You should talk about this, Sophie.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So for anybody who doesn't know us, we do e-learning, and then the like premium version is having virtual reality training to complement that e-learning, so that we use VR only where it's best placed to use, rather than doing the whole learning experience there. You just use VR for that practice.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you're thinking about it as a holistic business as opposed to a product built for a specific technology, which is why I think you found success there.
Definitely.
So
all right, so
Vera's response down is like, if you want to sell a VR company to an investor, don't sell a VR company to an investor.
I say that all the time. I issue the don't say VR challenge, which is you should be able to sell your business without ever saying the word VR. That's how you know if you can fundraise or not, because nobody's getting turned on by the word VR. Unfortunately, it's quite a bad industry right now. All right, we are going to power through 10 minutes of questions. We're going to turn this into a game. We're going to do speed round. Okay. So we're going to go through each person's question. Anand, I need you to fire off an answer in like 30 to 60 seconds. I know you love to ponder, but we're going to have to do this. And then once we get through everybody's question, we'll start to double click into some of the better points here that you want to touch on, but it's really important we get through everybody. So Aditya, can you kick us off here? Power through your question and non-power through, and then we'll go to Michael right after.
Sure, Nan. I get the Amazon equivalent that you're going to have Amazon Basics. You're going to have powered by Amazon. Would you have any of the apps that you'd hold close to yourself and you wouldn't allow a third-party app? Because we're doing avatar fashion and storytelling on avatar fashion.
No.
Would you lock something like that?
Nope. Mark's vision is open, open, open. So everything will be open.
Awesome. Michael, hit us with it.
Yeah, so I guess we have sort of an example of shopping in 3D. It's called like malls and showrooms, and they typically convert better than catalogs and websites. How do you see that sort of translating to, I guess, VR, XR?
What's the consumer need?
E-commerce. So basically the consumer need is, you know, I don't have typically the average time spent to get to a store is about 2 hours. And so whereas tapping of your phone wherever you are is a lot more convenient. And so what if you could have the best of both worlds? So I guess, does Meta have any plans to sort of promote sort of e-commerce type experiences?
No, we're going to let the ecosystem pioneer that work.
Gregory.
Hi, Gregory with D-Sky. Hi, Anand. My question is, to what degree and what tool sets do you see coming online? One of the challenges we found with XR development is, you know, the flexibility of the content presentation based on the user environment, and really trying to bring Gen AI into the development tool chain to generate that both in advance and on the fly. So what do you see as that landscape, and how fast that comes online for XR apps?
Can you be more specific? Like, what about AI are you looking for XR apps? Is just like Meta Assistant in the headset? Is this more like, how do I use Llama for experience blank in headset?
Yeah, we're looking more at like generative content in a 3D environment, not from the language side, but more from actual the modeling, texturing, and conforming, you know, to 2,000 different living rooms that we'll find ourselves in.
And are you framing this? It's a very broad question, so I'm trying to get to a 30-second answer. Like, are you framing this as a tool? Like, are you looking for like developer tools that'll help you build, let's say, like, I don't know, a 3D model of some asset in a gameplay, but not have to build it in Unity or get it from the Unity asset store, but instead just do something with generative AI that spits it out? Like, what problem are you trying to solve?
What we're trying to solve is to get rich environments at high levels of high and variable levels of detail, so that, you know, we can look from afar and also zoom in on them, and again, adapt those to a variety of physical environments, so that it's not just, oh, there's a hole in the wall, but rather, you know, being able to essentially develop the content archetypes and then have AI adapt them on the fly to the user environments. I'm just wondering, from your viewpoint, if you're seeing those tools come online, or if they're just in the imagination at this point.
It's more in the imagination at this point, because you have to solve, there's two classes of problems: space recognition and object recognition within the space, and then virtual generation of virtual experiences using Gen AI. You have to have both of them done well, and then they have to meet. So I think it's like 3 steps away.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Awesome question, Gregory. All right, George, hit us with it real quick.
Yeah, so Hanan, very broadly speaking, I'm based in the EU. So I'm curious how Meta thinks about audiences in terms of demographics, but also in terms of geographies. Like, for instance, I'm based in the EU, but I don't have access to Horizon Worlds. If there are any time horizons for that, and also is there a time horizon for when Meta will disclose, exactly what's the age of the typical users and those kinds of statistics?
Two different questions. Demo focuses US markets and Western European English speaking markets, followed by Western European non-English speaking markets. That's going to be the near-term focus for the next 2 to 3 years. So I don't know where you live, but if it falls within that, like, you should progressively experience access. I think the horizon in Europe, horizon we've already talked about, like cross screens on mobile devices. So the moment you have mobile devices, then it's available in most countries. So I expect that constraint to go away. Second question was like audience demo breakdown. I don't see us sharing that.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Nick?
Thanks so much.
Hey, Anand. This is awesome. So thanks for being here. I'm doing work in the healthcare space and have talked to some folks out there using VR in healthcare, and I think that's a good space of opportunity. But the biggest issue is data privacy. And so I'm curious if there's any plans or thoughts around enterprise level and maybe signing or having different policies for enterprise users around patient data and the privacy policies that are out there.
Yeah, you'd be surprised. Like, you should go check out Florio. If you haven't, like, there are experiences that are B2B healthcare. Like, for example, like, I think there's a class of things called MSK, for example, like musculoskeletal therapy based stuff. There's a class of like companies that have built B2B experiences where the reimbursement pathway is the payer or the provider that is not a consumer, and they've gotten their app certified as like HIPAA compliant. The device is not HIPAA compliant, but we don't keep any of the data. Like, we're not storing any of that stuff. All you get like from the headset is like IMU data, SLAM data. That's mostly it. If you use Quest for Business, even then, like, login is not tied to your Facebook login or your Instagram login. You can have just a Meta account level login that's managed by the organization. So I think founders have gotten farther than I thought they would based on this building block. So you should go check that out because it's possible today and companies are being built.
Okay.
That's a good one where I think you can make a bunch of money, just like B2B. It's a real business.
100% agree. Georgie, you want to ask him?
Sorry, and if you do that,
Yeah,
go
yeah.
to General Catalyst because they have a healthcare focused thing. And like, I know that the healthcare partner in General Catalyst is like clearly convinced that XR for healthcare is a thing. So General Catalyst is your VC firm of choice. Sorry, Don.
Awesome.
Go ahead.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. You just mentioned previously that you believe in like passive content consumption of like classic media and entertainment, such as getting the best seat in an NBA game or something. But it seems like that like Gaussian splatting, which is kind of a trend now, it unlocks like volumetric videos of a new type, like purely life-like volumetric videos. And with this volumetric videos application, do you personally believe it in this passive like couch VR content consumption for like NBA boxing match, yeah, or fight, or inactive content consumption where you're like actively choose the position, the viewpoint, move around these fighters in the octagon? What do you think on this?
Great question. I think in a 5 to 7 year time frame, Gaussian splatting will become the default way because it reduces the barrier to produce great volumetric content. But for the next 5 years, I don't think it's going to happen because it's super compute intensive. And so what ends up happening is like you get a poorer version of reality than a better version of reality, like a digital twin. So I think there's fundamental pipeline optimization R&D work that needs to happen before you can only ship a phone to a creator and they can capture a Gaussian splat of whatever, and it gets beautifully rendered on a standalone 6-stop headset. That is 5 years away.
Okay, thank you so much.
Anand, can we keep you for 3 more questions or do you have to go? I know we're at time. I apologize.
Let me make sure there's no hard stop. I can stay.
Thank you, if possible.
Yep, good.
All right. Thank you very much. We'll go quick. Appreciate that. Nathan, Ellie, Ronnie, we'll round it out with you 3. So Nathan, you want to go? Thanks,
Sure.
Anand.
Thanks, Anand. This is great. I am, I host a workrooms community, but I'm asking this question on behalf of Doran, who's doing Float VR as a meditation mindfulness app. And he was asking about subscriptions in the App Lab. Like, will that be a possibility? Is that going to be a possibility?
Yes.
Right now, it seems like you can't at the moment, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Great question. Ellie, you want to go?
Hi, Ann, Eli here. Yeah, thank you for that. If you were building your first VR experience for the consumer, what would be your approach to go broad, to say an experience to a casual gamer, or go niche, route first, and then expand a bit more broadly?
Abso-fucking-lutely niche.
And why?
It's hard to build a great product for many people.
Okay.
Really easier to build a small product for somebody very, very, very specific.
Great.
The trick is to keep optionality for yourself so you can expand beyond the niche.
Thank you.
All right, Ronnie, final question, and then I have one for Anand, and we'll kick this out of here.
Final question. Previously, it was Meta's focus to sell as many headsets as possible. Can you confirm that it is still the focus, or has something changed?
I'm not sure I follow the question.
Well, I always understood that your whole purpose was to sell just many headsets. That's the whole goal, that people experience it and they can, well, if you have experienced VR, then you are sold. That's more or less it. And a lot of focus went into sell as many headsets. So everything regarding strategy, vision, everything got headed towards that goal. And I was wondering if that has changed, because now there are quite a bit of people who have actual VR. No change?
No change.
Perfect.
The single biggest thing we can do for the ecosystem is to get more headsets sold. Period.
Awesome. All right, Anand, that last one here. So you were in YC, you sold that startup. Everyone here is a founder. We all know how hard this is, especially with VR. It multiplies the hard factor. Can you give everybody like your going away of advice of, you know, these are the things we learned through the YC program? Like when you go to your next company, what is the one lesson you guarantee that you're going to focus on that we all should be focused on?
Thing about startups is never one lesson. It's multiple lessons and a juggling a question of what you let break and fall. The things that are absolutely non-negotiable are obsess over the user behavior, don't spend a lot, and do not expect any success for 10 years. If it happens, it happens. And so like incorporate after I sold my company, I didn't realize, my wife told me this, like I actually had real like mental health issues for a long time. And like our identities are so wrapped up in what we're building. Just take care of your mental health for 10 years. Like, and if you can find joy in what you're building, regardless of whether it's going to be successful or not, and if you can put food on the table for yourself, like that is fucking win. Because it's only a matter of time if you persist like that you like luck will attract itself to you. You just have to get through that for the next 10 years. I know it's like, it sounds hard, but like it's doable. And I would go back to doing just that. Follow the behavior, keep the basics, get the basics right, don't burn, manage my mental health. That's it.
It's awesome. All right, everybody, can we give a round of applause? Anand, thank you so much for coming and being here. We really appreciate that. Thank you. That was fantastic.
Thank you, Anand.
Good luck.
Thanks, Anand.
Keep doing the awesome work. If there's anything we can do to help, you can find me through Don. So
Thank you, sir. Have a good day. Thanks again for coming.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Anand.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Thank you for joining. Bye-bye.
Thanks for organizing, Don. Thanks, Anand.
Absolutely. Anytime. Hope it was very helpful. Bye, everyone. Bye-bye.